held at the twilight that's gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. Oh, the ramparts we walked were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular upon spur, singing out, yeah, through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Welcome to Inside the Gamecocks, the morning show. Presented by the Barn Dominion Company and Resto Pros of the Midlands. Part of the Chief Sports Network. Go Gamecocks!
He'll be fire on the mountain.
Consecutive home runs for Carolina.
It is good. It's gone.
He's in. Touchdown. Williams with a throw to the cup.
He's going to score. It's a walk-off.
Touchdown, South Carolina.
All right, greetings and good morning. Welcome aboard and welcome home inside the Gamecocks The Morning Show, built by the Barn Co. and presented by our friends at Resto Pros. There when you need them, Resto Pros of the Midlands, Resto Pros Midlands, SC.com. They will clean up the mess when you can't. The Barn Co. builds dream homes in the Carolinas. You head to their website. I promise you'll see something you like. Thousands do. All over the Carolinas. The Barn Co. is one of the best builders in the country. They've got the awards that prove that. They are Gamecock owned and they are Gamecock operated, and so are we. Part of the Chief Sports Network. I'm JB here until noon today, and then the show takes over with JC and Mad Dog. But prior to that, Alex Jones, you see him on the screen. He'll pop in or pipe in here in just a moment. Following Alex, our buddy Brad Crawford will join us from 24/7 Sports. It has already begun. List season, that is. We'll talk to Brad about some of those things and more pertaining to Gamecock football, their players, and others around the SEC and beyond. Coming up in the 11 o'clock hour, we've got John Strickland. We'll talk some Carolina baseball today, too, pitchers and catchers to be specific. The men play tonight in search of win number 1 in the SEC. Hard to believe that after the year they had last year. We'll get into that here in just a little bit. Plenty of Carolina football. And last night, the ladies, they were up big, and Tennessee crawled back. Dawn Staley was not a happy camper, but South Carolina held on to win 70-63 on Rocky Top to improve to 20-1 on the season, 8-0 in the SEC. With all that said, Alex Jones with the Big Spur. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning. Good morning. Great to be back with you.
Always good to have you. It is quite the busy time. It's pretty much always busy, as we well know, Alex. But, of course, Carolina had a huge recruiting weekend as well. If you happen to miss last night's VIP room on the Big Spur, I would highly suggest you check that out as it pertains to the future of the Carolina football program. There is some really good news, and we'll see if Alex can add anything to that. JC will be here tomorrow to fill us in on more. Of course, he'll have a lot in recruiting in his portion of the show coming up here in just a couple of hours too. So a lot to get to there, but Alex, we'll start with the ladies. Ladies first. They win again last night. Didn't play well and still won by 7 points on the road on Rocky Top. Tennessee, though, is I feel like they're maybe, kind of clawing their way back to the Vols program we once knew. It's hard not to like who they are. They were really down, and Carolina seemed to get pretty lazy with the basketball, but they held on to get another big victory last night. And now we've got the Asia Wilson Day coming up here in a few days, but a good one on the road, especially only a couple of days rest.
Yeah, kind of a quick turnaround for South Carolina. Obviously with that LSU game getting moved back a day and another ranked matchup for South Carolina, but they found a way to take care of business. They had a pretty sizable lead there, and I think maybe, Tennessee kind of started working their way back into it. But, at the end of the day, South Carolina found a way to get a win and, continue to do what they're doing. And I think, one of the big standouts so far has been Joyce Edwards. I mean, she's been pretty awesome here recently. Yeah. And last night had 18 and 5, 8 of 13 from the field. And for a freshman, they need her to step up big time, especially when Ashlyn Watkins went down and she stepped up big. I mean, I think she's led them in scoring here a lot here recently, and 18 points again last night, then 10 from Powell, Johnson, and Kitts. Like, pretty good night overall for South Carolina. They found a way to get a win.
Yeah, look, Joyce Edwards playing 29 minutes off the bench. They needed to get more out of her when Ashlyn Watkins went down. And as you just pointed out, they certainly have been. She's the next one. Dawn always seems to have the next one, especially in the post. I mean, post player after post player after post player end up being an All-American, and then they head off to the WNBA. She's going to be the next one. Her last 4 games, 21 points, 17 points, 14 points, and then last night 18 points. I do think Coach Staley would like to see her, a little bit in better position, or maybe a little bit more aggressive, if you will, off the boards. She's shooting at an incredibly high clip on the season, almost 60%, averaging 12 points per game and 5 rebounds, 75% from the charity strike. I mean, she's growing up before your eyes. We knew the talent coming in, Alex, but she's growing up before everybody's eyes, and she's going to end up being the next one.
Yeah, I think, everybody saw what she did in high school, and she was awesome in high school. And I think it was just maybe a little bit of having to transition to get used to the, college level game. And I think playing that non-conference schedule they did has only helped her prepare for this SEC slate. And, you think about all the teams they played there in non-conference slate, having to go to UCLA and play one of the top teams in the country and playing multiple top teams in the country in the non-conference. Not only help Joyce Edwards, but the rest of the team, get ready for this SEC slate. And she continues to shine, and I think you're seeing the potential she has. And she, as you mentioned, she's only going to continue to get better.
Yeah, it did end last night. What was it? 14 straight victories in by double digits. Wasn't it 14? If 15?
Yeah,
somewhere in there. It ended the streak, though. I mean, they had it.
Yeah,
and then the streak was over. Something like that. I can't remember exactly what it is, and that's like their 59th straight SEC win or something too.
I believe
somewhere.
So. Yeah. It's incredible.
Alex, one of the conversations that always comes up, and it comes up around the men's team, is Colonial Life Arena and how many people fit in there and all that stuff. I mean, when Carolina is playing really well, there's a ton of folks in there. And obviously when they're struggling, I know the students have been showing up, and hats off to them for doing so. And hats off to the administration for encouraging the students and creating, incentives and an environment for them to be there and all that type of stuff. But outside of them, it's a sparse crowd, if you will. I mean, if you play it in a gym like Auburn does, it would pretty much be full every time. But very rarely does that conversation ever get had with the women in mind. And I started thinking about this, and I'm part of that. So I kind of slapped myself over it. We can have these conversations all we want, or fans can have those conversations all they want. But when the women play in there, the place is jam-packed almost every single time. It is jam-packed. So, it's just win, and you'll create that environment too. But I felt like it was I thought about this last night, and I put it down in the notes in my phone. Like, every time we have this conversation, maybe it needs to be reminded that there's 17, 18,000 in there when the ladies play each time, right?
Yeah, and it's sold out every game, and it's not only is the ticket sold out, but there's 18,000 fans in the arena every game, and it's incredible what Dawn Staley's built. I mean, every game they sell that place out, no matter who they play in the non-conference or in conference. Like, they sell that place out, and it's when you're winning national championships and winning as much as they have, I imagine it's pretty easy to sell out the arena. And it's incredible from where Dawn Staley took over this program, and the support to now. I mean, it's pretty incredible what she's done, and it's only continuing.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, there's celebrities and stuff that show up for games, and all the football players, all the old football players are always in there. I mean, everybody wants a piece of it. You see those lines before they tip off. It's pretty incredible. Those lines are going to be just as long coming up this weekend, because Asia Wilson 2-2 will have that number raised, and they've got Auburn for the ball game. It's a noon tip on Sunday on the SEC network. Auburn's struggling in the SEC, just 2-6. They're 11-10 overall, and this seems to be a likely large victory for Carolina while they celebrate her and honor her. After that, they go to Georgia. And then I'll tell you what, man, I know that they beat the Longhorns by 17 at home, but that trip to number 5, Texas, next Sunday, the 9th, Super Bowl Sunday. That's kind of they played a big game last year on Super Bowl Sunday too, if I remember correctly. It was in the middle of the afternoon, which was great, because I don't know about you, dude, but the Super Bowl coverage from like 9 in the morning until 6 at night is just too much for me. I can't do it all day. And so it was a nice little break up in the action, if you will, to be able to watch them play. But that trip to Austin certainly looms large. And then they've got UConn. Remember, they'll come in on the 16th. So some big games left for the ladies. And for the men, they've got every game's a big game from here on out, especially when you have it 1-1 in the SEC. And tonight they're going to try to do it for the first time in Stegman Coliseum. Alex, they're 12 points, 4 wins away from easily, being very settled in the tournament right now. You'd be talking about victories at Vanderbilt, top 5 victories at home over Auburn and Florida. And they lost those 2 games by a total of 4 points. And then the overtime loss this past weekend to Mississippi State that they lost by 5. All of these turnovers have affected them. And had they had just a couple less here and there, and I think Mike gave the stat yesterday, the last 4 games, 76 turnovers for South Carolina or something like that. It's terrible. It's a terrible number. Had they been able to win those games like they did for the large majority of them last year, you're talking about a team that is in the dance today, in the tournament, easily in the tournament. As one of the SEC's projected to get 13 teams in right now. They would absolutely, no doubt about it, be one of those 13. But because of those miscues, they're not sniffing any tournament right now. What is the pulse of the team heading into tonight's road contest?
Every time they have one of these tough losses, you're always looking at that next game. All right, how's this team going to come out? And every game, pretty much, they've come out and competed. I mean, these top 5 matchups, they could have easily gotten run out the gym. If they led the game before and beat them twice, but it hasn't happened. And I think that for one, is a credit to the team to continue to keep playing when things aren't going your way, and you've been so close. But at the same time, they've got some of these little things they've got to get cleaned up if they want to get some of these things going. I mean, some late game situations have not gone their way that they need to improve on, and the turnovers. I mean, you mentioned that those continue. They have to stop. I mean, I think they had 19 against Mississippi State. And I think it's just some late game stuff they're not executing. When you think about the Mississippi State game, they get it. They found a way to claw back. That 1-3-1 zone against Mississippi State really affected them, and they found a way to continue to get back in that game and force overtime. And then you get to Mississippi State, or you get to overtime, and Mississippi State hits 8 of 9 from the free throw line, and that's just some execution things. And credit to Mississippi State for doing that. And South Carolina just couldn't do enough offensively there. And I think it's just one of those where they're right there, and they can fix a few things. They can get some wins here down the stretch, and we'll see what they do tonight against Georgia. Georgia is coming into this game on a 4-game losing streak, so they're going to be hungry for a win. So it's going to be a battle. It's a battle every night, but it's going to be a battle again tonight in Athens.
Yeah, it's a great point. Georgia's had issues of their own. It's not been an easy stretch they had to go to 6th-ranked Tennessee, and they lost. They hosted Auburn, and they almost clipped them, just like the Gamecocks did in the CLA, but they lost that game 70-68. They had to go to Arkansas, and John Calipari got his first win as a head coach of the Razorbacks in that ball game, but they lost by just 3. And then just this past weekend, they went down to the Swamp. And I guess maybe the hangover of back-to-back heartbreaking losses was kind of lingering because Florida throttled them 89-59. They beat them by 30 points at the O'Connell Center. So, Mike White's been around a while. He's got a lot of history against South Carolina, clearly. This seems like the opportunity for a get-right game for the Dogs because their next trip this weekend is to Tuscaloosa to take on Alabama. And they're sitting here now at 2-5 in the SEC and 14-6. And, they're in the mix for an NCAA tournament berth. But, you keep losing games and you're running out of room. So they got to have this one. So I would anticipate Georgia is going to throw everything they've got at South Carolina tonight. The thing with the Gamecocks, turnovers clearly, we know what their personnel is, and it is what it is. But, breaking the press has been really, really wild to watch. I don't know what the answer is there.
Yeah.
I mean, and then, on the other side of that, conversation is defensively. They kind of went back to that 1-3-1 a little bit this weekend, and that seemed to work. You haven't seen it as often this year as you felt like you saw it last year. Do you think that's something we're going to see a little bit more of?
Yeah, I'm interested to see tonight if that is the case because that 1-3-1 is kind of what got them back into that game against Mississippi State. And you mentioned it last year, they went into that a lot, that 1-3-1, and it helped them either extend their lead or maybe claw back into a game. So I'm interested to see if that does happen, especially now with some of the depth coming back. I mean, you had Murray Bowles never was out, but you had him listed as questionable before the last game. He's obviously playing tonight, and then Jamari Thomas is back. So I wonder now with a little bit more depth that they'll throw that in there. I think now, Georgia's probably fully going to prepare for that because they've seen it on film. And, with your point to the full court press, they handled it. Mississippi State threw it down a little bit in this last game. They handled it a little bit better with Jamari Thomas back, but it still was not clean. And, that press was what got them in that Florida game. They couldn't inbound the ball, and that was a struggle and what got Florida the win pretty much in that game. So, it's just pretty much just a ball handling and a turnovers. They just got to be cleaner there if they want to. Because in this league, if you can't do that, it's going to be a long game, especially on the road.
Yeah, it is. We'll see what happens in the ball game tonight. But Carolina in desperate need of a win. It's a 7:00 tip, and Derek and Casey will be on the air at 6:30 for the pregame show. You can watch it on the SEC network, and if you do what I do, you can watch it and listen to it. For what it's worth, on the call tonight, Rich Hollenberg has the play-by-play, and Damian Fishback is the analyst on TV. Switching to football here, Alex, 9 now former players are in all-star games this week, starting Thursday night. So we're just a couple of days away at AT&T Stadium, or Jerry World, in Arlington. It's the East-West Shrine Bowl game. The East team has 5 former Carolina football players: O.D. Fortune, Tonka Hemingway, Kai Kroger, Rocket Sanders, and Josh Simon. Bam Martin Scott, because he has now decided to move on to the NFL, is also playing, but he's going to be on the West team. Unfortunately, he doesn't get to play with his guys. Of those players, and we'll get to the others coming up here in just a minute. Of those guys there, who has the most to gain on Thursday night in the East-West game?
I think you could make a case for really almost every one of them, but I think Bam Martin Scott could be one. I think he's one that's known in the draft circles now, and especially with this, putting his name into the drafts. Like, I think he could be one that could maybe sneak into the draft. Like, I think when you think about it, O'Donnell Fortune's going to get drafted. I think he's got a really good shot to do it. Tonka's going to get drafted. Kai Kroger, I think, could sneak in. He's probably going to be one of the top punters in the draft, and that's a spot where they normally obviously take late in the drafts, and maybe he can get in, but at the very least, he's going to get an NFL shot. And Rocket Sanders, I think, is really interesting too, because you look at how the NFL kind of treats running backs now in the draft. Like, he could maybe sneak his way into a third round, but I could see him being a fourth or fifth round guy right now. And they're really Josh Simon too. Like, he's got a chance. Like, he kind of looks like that prototypical NFL tight end. And so I think each one of these guys has something to gain, but I'm really interested to see, what people are saying about Bam Martin Scott. Some of the draft analysts and all that are saying about him after this game when they get eyes on him.
So I'm going to be on the very optimistic side of this here. I think all of those guys I just listed, I think they all get drafted.
I can see it.
I really do. I think they all get drafted. I think they all deserve to get drafted. That's not just because they put the South Carolina uniform on. I think all of those guys deserve to be drafted. I think O'Donnell Fortune has the most to gain in this game, because if you think about, and look, you've got Pro Day coming up here in a couple of months too at Williams-Brice Stadium. This will be one of the more fascinating. You'll get to cover this. This is going to be the best one you've had a chance to cover. I can almost guarantee you that. Yeah. Because there's so many guys who are projected to go in the draft, and so many guys who are going to have a chance to really move their way up. Tonka he's on a lot of boards. Kai Kroger is on a lot of boards. He's one of the best punters in the country. You already mentioned Rocket. Even if Rocket doesn't get drafted, he's going to sign. And same thing with Josh Simon. Bam Martin Scott has everything you want from an NFL standpoint and what they're looking for as far as a linebacker goes, right? From a physical standpoint. But the one name every time members of the secondary get brought up in the draft and all these things that just continuously gets forgotten about is O'Donnell Fortune. And, he's had some enormous plays in his time at South Carolina, as we all well know. And the one that always stands out is the 100-yard pick six against Notre Dame, Alex. But one of the things that also kind of gets forgotten about is a little bit of a similarity there to some of his predecessors. And the fact that they didn't throw the football to his side of the field a lot. And, occasionally, there's going to be one or two that he gets beat on. It's life. It's going to happen. But you take that with the fact that I go back 2 years, and where was he then? And where is he now? And like every time it's time for O'Donnell Fortune to take another step, he takes it every single time, and it's a big one. And so I think when I don't really know him, had spent some time around him. What an awesome kid, the pride of Sumter, South Carolina. But when he's challenged, like when he knows they're paying attention, this guy up here, he's one of the best, and I get to cover. He rises to the challenge seemingly every time. It's his makeup and his personality. So I think the fact that there are going to be scouts who get to talk to him this week and already have talked to him, and then he gets to go out there and play. I think if he has a big game on Thursday night, he doesn't have to have like a big pick or anything like that, but if he plays well, Alex, I think his name is going to start coming up a little bit more. And then when we get to Pro Day in a couple of months, he's going to have a chance to really bust through them.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was one. He's going to obviously have a lot of eyes on him in this game, but he also played in the Hula Bowl, I think, here 2 weeks ago. So he's already got some NFL draft scouts and watching him. And obviously, he's going to play in the compete in the pro day, and maybe I think he's got a pretty good shot to be in the combine as well. So when you look at him, he was a guy who every year he was outside, kind of continued to get better and better. And then this year was kind of, his big year from an NFL standpoint because he was going to take over that number one cornerback spot when Marcellus Dahl went and got drafted by the Patriots. And, he didn't have as many pass breakups this year, but I think that's because teams didn't really challenge him because he was so good out there covering the number one guys for the most part. And, he had a rock solid year, a really good year. And I think it was a huge year from him from an NFL standpoint. And I think I 100% agree with you. Like, he's going to be a guy who, absolutely, I think, with a big week at the West Shrine Bowl, not only the game, but these practices. With these things, the practices really are the biggest things that these scouts are watching for because they get to see them maybe 3 or 4 times during the week. And, with a big week in the practice and all, and, a good performance in the game, I think he could continue to rise up the NFL draft boards.
It's an 8:00 kick on Thursday night on the NFL Network. Saturday at 2:30 on the NFL Network is the 12th annual Reese's Senior Bowl. And you got Kyle Kennard, Demetrius Knight, and TJ Sanders. Who has the most draft stock to game of those three?
Demetrius Knight. Yeah, I think when you look at the other two, Kennard and Sanders, like those guys are probably going to be at least second round picks. I think TJ probably has the best chance to potentially move into that first round, talk. But Demetrius Knight's a guy who I think maybe he's a little under the radar. And I'm interested, I think I posted on the board last week that I'm interested to see what NFL draft people are saying about him at the Reese's Senior Bowl. Because when you look at it, I think he's got everything the NFL draft wants. You think about his mentality, you think about on the field, you think about his speed at the linebacker spot, his physicality. He's got it all. And I think, I'm not sure about this linebacker class, but I think it's, I think in this one, he's got a chance to be one, maybe a top 5 linebacker taken in this draft. And I think the Reese's Senior Bowl, I think is the chance where he could be, rise up those boards. And I think Pro Football Focus, I think mentioned him last week as I think they may be on their big board right now, have him as like one of the top linebackers being selected right now. So I think he's got a chance to continue rising the board. And I'm really interested to see what people are saying about him this week.
I am too. Those other guys, look, I totally agree with you. TJ Sanders, Kyle Kennard, we know that they're going to go in the draft. It's really a matter of how high. Demetrius Knight, while we're talking about his play, when he sits in the interview room, that's where he shines as much as you sat in an interview room with him. Yeah. He's very impressive. He already has the NFL mindset. He's got a family. He needs to provide for his family. He's responsible. He's a teammate. He's a team player. His response to why he played in the bowl game. All these things matter to those guys. He's very, very, very mature. He's an adult. And when he sits in that room, Alex, there's going to be somebody, my projection, somebody out there, one of these teams in the NFL is going to take him over somebody else they were planning to take just because of his makeup.
Yeah, I think you mentioned his interview with these teams and that he's going to do with all throughout the Reese's Senior Bowl. He's going to nail those. Like he will be awesome in those interviews. We've seen what he can say, what he says in the press conference and his maturity. Like I think he will be awesome in the interview rooms, and his play on the field is only going to help him take him to that next level as well.
I agree. What about even Worry? Where's he? What's he doing?
I kind of figured he'd be in the Reese's Senior Bowl, but I don't think he is. And I think he's a guy who, he's one that when he goes to the combine and in these pro days, he's going to, I think, shoot up draft boards just because of his athleticism. And I think he put a lot on tape this year from an NFL draft standpoint. And I think he's probably got the best chance to be the Gamecocks first or the top draft pick because I think he'll just go to these combines and, light it up with his athleticism and his 40 and his, broad jump and all that. I think he will be awesome in those combines. And in my opinion, he's got the best chance to be the highest draft pick for South Carolina.
He continues to move up. He's inside the top 20 by many right now. Yeah. Alex, we got to let you run on that note. Brad Crawford's coming up here in just a moment. Any parting shots?
Heading to Athens tonight, so stay tuned to the Big Spur. I'll be in Stegman Coliseum tonight covering the game, and then Matt Aronson and I will be back tomorrow night. We'll recap the game on the Chief Sports Network on the Late Night Gamecock Show, but we'll have it all covered.
Make sure you wear something waterproof. They'll pee on your leg over there.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
Safe travels, brother. Thank you.
See ya.
There you go. Alex Jones with the Big Spur. Brought to you by Gamecock Traditions ITG. We'll be right back with Brad Crawford.
Oh, man, the building is on fire.
Emergencies and accidents happen. When you're in the middle of a fire or water event, all you want is for things to return to normal as soon as possible. Resto Pros of the Midlands is with you, guiding you through the process and working with you to get your home or office back in working order. They'll answer your questions, discuss procedures, and can act as your advocate when it comes to processing your insurance claim. Resto Pros Midlands SC.com. Open 24/7 when you need them. Quality that is guaranteed.
Happy New Year from the Barndominium Company, where they are building dream homes in the Carolinas, Georgia, and Tennessee. Their turnkey process can be custom designed and takes 6 months on average. Make your dream a reality. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. Thebarndominiumco.com. Gamecock owned and operated.
Think about that old ride of yours. The carpools, the road trips, the heavy hauls, date nights, and the dings and the dents and the sticky spills and cracker crumbs, and that smell that really never goes away. Do you really want to start the new year in the same old ride? Or is it time for a fresh start? Now's the time for incredible New Year's savings at Love Chevrolet on the entire lineup of award-winning vehicles. Love has more new Chevys on the lot than any other dealer in the Midlands, in the color, style, features you've been looking for. With New Year's savings and Love's famous low price guarantee, your new ride in 25 will be invigorating, exhilarating, and affordable too. South Carolina's #1 volume Chevy dealer, I-26 at Harbison, and online at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive.
That's the power of love. Love Chevy.
This is LaNorris from Gamecock Football, and you listen to the show.
Yep. It is all ours. GamecockTraditions.com, where you can go get new arrivals all the time. And there's always a sale. I just got our long sleeve script Carolina hooded tee. I like the hooded tees, the long sleeves. Those are there. The Our State shirts are there from beating Clemson back in November, in case you forgot about that. And a reminder, baseball season right around the corner. Get your Carolina baseball gear now. Their hats are in. Game hats are in at Gamecock Traditions. You can order online at GamecockTraditions.com or visit one of their 2 locations in Columbia. Brad Crawford has been a busy, well-traveled man over the last few weeks. Hey, buddy.
Hey, man. How are you?
All right. So California, I'm good. California, Atlanta. And then did you make it to Disney?
We did make it to Universal this past weekend, and today is day 2 of me getting over flu A. So no more crazy travel for me, thankfully, until media days this summer.
I hope 95 was better to you going down there than it was to us when we went.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't too bad.
All right. It was a train wreck. Before coming back, we flew the whole way. Well, how was the national championship experience?
It was a lot of fun, man. It wasn't quite the Rose Bowl. I enjoyed Los Angeles and just being out there in Pasadena, maybe a little bit more than Atlanta. Atlanta is something that I've seen before, but covering a national championship game was awesome. And I got to get a little preview of Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the Gamecocks opener against Virginia Tech. I think South Carolina fans who haven't been to that venue are going to love Mercedes-Benz, and it is a great place to watch a game. Every seat in that venue is top-notch.
Well, and I don't even know if you were able to venture up there or not, but I haven't been in there. I can't believe that I haven't been. But my understanding is the concession prices are like cheap or normal, if you will.
Slice of pizza was $2, hot dogs $2, burger and fries $5. What? I actually, so the media meal at halftime wasn't all that intriguing to me, so I left the press box and got some actual food with the people, with Ohio State and Notre Dame fans.
Which fan base did you enjoy more?
Man, I've only covered 2 Ohio State games in my career, and it's the blowout win over Oregon and now this. So I've got OHIO just in my head nonstop now.
Yeah,
it's all I hear. I'm so used to Gamecocks, and now it's just OHIO everywhere.
Yeah, we got to get that fixed, Brad. That's gonna do some major damage before next year if that's all you're hearing for 8 months. Well, I'm glad you got to do all that. You earned it and deserved it. So congratulations on all that. It was neat to follow it too. And you've had a chance to be on Feinbaum. So we're going to give you a similar chance here. You do this from time to time, and then JC and myself, we have to get on here. We have to clean up all your damage.
Gives you something to talk about.
You put out lists, get everybody all, 9 o'clock. Somebody's been working all day, Brad. They come home, they cook food for their family, they get the kids in bed.
Yeah.
And they sit down and they pull up their phone. That damn Brad Crawford, he did it again. Freaking Cade Klubnik, he ain't worth it. So
the problem is, look, nobody ever reads the intro paragraph to these projections that I write.
Bingo.
It's not Cade is better than LaNorris. It's not, so-and-so is better than Nico. It's at the end of November 2025, which of these quarterbacks are going to have the best numbers and probably be in New York as a Heisman finalist. And I think with the returning wide receiver talent Cade Klubnik has coming back, with Clemson's favorable schedule next season, opening against LSU, that's a chance where if Klubnik throws 4 or 5 touchdown passes against LSU, he's the week 0 front runner. So there was great debate inside the 24/7 sports offices on who number 1 was. I didn't have Cade number 1 specifically, but several other analysts did, and it's kind of a numbered heads together type story. So yeah, Cade is our number 1 quarterback for 2025 projection wise. 36 touchdowns last season. I think he encroaches on 40 touchdown passes as a senior.
And to your point just a moment ago, we read this the other day. I'm going to read it one more time.
Yep.
This subjective list is heavy on expectations for next season, so we limited the scope to players on teams we expect to compete within or on the fringes of the top 25 throughout the year. These rankings are strictly based on what we've seen from each player on the field up to this point and how we expect the 2025 season to go from a statistical standpoint. And then you had conversations, you stated, with analysts and scouts and et cetera, et cetera. And as you also pointed out, it has to do with who are you playing against?
Correct.
And all those type things. So naturally, LaNorris Sellers playing in some of the other quarterbacks in the SEC playing against those defenses, and Cade Klubnik playing against some of the defenses he'll play against in the ACC, his stats probably are going to be a little inflated over others. So you have Klubnik at 1 because of everything there we literally just talked about.
And look, if LaNorris Sellers had Bryant Wesco and Antonio Williams and TJ Moore to throw to, he'd probably be the top quarterback in the country to me. But he doesn't have that. And South Carolina has not signed a premier level wideout yet this portal cycle. So there's still some questions I have of Gamecocks offense.
And to be clear, you're not saying he might not have that, but to your knowledge as of now, he does not have that yet.
Right. Yep.
Okay. All right. So interestingly enough, though, you've got Carson Beck at number 5. Okay. And I understand everything that we just talked about, but the other side of that coin is he's coming off of an injury, and transferring to a new team where he's going to. But the thing that I'm more concerned about than all that is taking all this money and going down to Miami, Florida with his girlfriend. That could affect a 22, 23, whatever he is, year old kid. But you've got him at number 5.
I think the most beneficial thing for Carson Beck is, he goes from likely a late day 2 pick in 2025, had he come out at Georgia this season, to potentially being the top quarterback taken in 2026 next spring, if he has the season that a lot of us expect him to have at Miami. He's no longer in a pro-style offense. He's going to be in a, tempo-based spread. We saw what that did for Cam Ward, kind of worked wonders for him. He might be the top pick here in a couple weeks in April. And now Carson Beck has a chance he's going to face softer defenses. The defensive talent, JB, in the ACC is not what it is in the Big Ten or the SEC. Now I think Carson Beck is going to raise his level of play as a result. The thing that sort of alarmed me for Carson Beck is he made more mistakes as a junior than he's made, his previous 2 years combined. He was starting to see guys that weren't there. He was throwing into underneath coverage that, just mistakes that you wouldn't expect from a, multi-year starter in the SEC. So Carson Beck is a guy that I think is going to be, one of the front runners to win the faux comeback player of the year award, because I do think he's still an elite quarterback.
Did you ever get or I don't know if you even looked around for one, but did you ever get any quality information that pertained to his decision to not actually enter the NFL draft and transfer to Miami? Was that strictly a monetary decision?
I think it had to be. I think he got some advice from various scouts or the NFL Drafts Advisory Board, and they pretty much told him you're not a day 1 selection. I'm actually surprised, and along those same lines, JB, I'm surprised Quinn Ewers has not pulled his name out either. I mean, if the estimated $8 million deal he was going to get from, the program that will not be named, it's Notre Dame, by the way. If that's true, then I'm surprised he's staying in, because I don't think Quinn Ewers is going to be a first-round pick.
Notre Dame. Well, so Notre Dame. Wow, that would be something.
Notre Dame was certainly fishing for a portal quarterback. They've taken several in Marcus Freeman's tenure. First, it was Sam Hartman at Wake Forest. Then it was Riley Leonard. Freeman said before the playoff that they feel pretty confident in the group they have now. But I do think if a high-end quarterback does enter the portal, maybe in the April cycle, Notre Dame will be one of those programs that reaches out.
They got plenty of money to spend, clearly.
Yep.
So also in these top 10 QB rankings of yours, Arch Manning is at number 3. Give us your synopsis there.
I've been an Arch Manning fan since the day he stepped on campus. I thought that he would have taken Texas to the playoff semifinal had he started all year, just like Quinn Ewers did. In the games that we have seen Arch Manning play, I mean, there's been flashes of, he is the premier top prospect, 5-star guy. It's going to be weird, man. He's not going to have the career that a lot of us thought he'd had, because he's only going to have one starting season. I mean, he's probably a, 1-year starter and out after 2025 as a first-round pick next spring. But I do think Texas has enough talent around him, despite losing all these draft personnel guys, that, Texas is going to be right up there, probably maybe my preseason favorite to win the SEC over Georgia. I just think Arch Manning's in a very good situation, whereas other elite quarterbacks like a LaNorris Sellers, so to speak, he doesn't have those, just crazy depth of playmakers around him the way Arch Manning in Texas does.
At number 9 is Diego Pavia.
He was not my choice to make this list.
Okay, so this was not just Brad Crawford put him at number 9, and I'm there's okay.
No, this is he's a Johnny Manziel type. He's not going to be a pro quarterback, in my opinion. He's prolonging his career. He got that extra year of eligibility. But look, you did win 6 games as Vandy's starting quarterback. That hadn't been done in like a decade since James Franklin was there. And you did beat number 1 Alabama in Nashville. That's never been done at Vanderbilt. The quarterback has a lot to do with that. Mm-hmm. Is South Carolina afraid of Diego Pavia next season? No. They pretty much know, what his best attributes are and what he does not do well. But is he a top end SEC quarterback coming into 2025? Yes. Is he a top 10 player? I don't think he is, but everyone else I spoke to said you've got to have Diego Pavia in this top 10.
So I think he's going to be interesting to watch because playing for Vanderbilt, who's kind of long been the man, don't you feel bad for those guys? You don't say that when they beat you. I mean, I don't think Alabama's saying that today. In Diego Pavia, like there's a likability factor about him in how he plays the game, but that same factor makes him very unlikable to some people too. But he is boisterous. He obviously has had a lawsuit ongoing in the middle of the year this year.
He pounds chest a lot. He does.
Yeah. Do you think he is?
He's Baker Mayfield without Baker Mayfield's talent. He's kind of a villain. He is a villain.
Yeah.
Those outside the SEC like Diego Pavia. Those inside the SEC, his shtick kind of gets old. But like I said, man, you lost by 3 to Texas. You beat Alabama. I mean, you've got some swagger that you can kind of speak on.
Kind of a Travis Kelce situation. There's a lot of people that like Travis Kelce, and a lot of people that it's nothing personal, but I'm just kind of tired of seeing it. If that makes sense. One of the more interesting case studies, though, I think at the quarterback position in the SEC is who is at number 10 here. Jackson Arnold going to the Plains and playing for Hugh Freeze. We know how talented he is. There's no question about that. And now he gets to go with a guy who generally can get quarterbacks going in the right direction. Obviously, by virtue of being in this list, there are high expectations for him from the staff at 24/7. What about you personally? What do you think about that fit?
Yeah, the number 10 spot for me, JB, was by far the toughest. I mean, I had Arnold there. DJ Lagway was an option. Nico at Tennessee was an option. John Mateer at Oklahoma, a guy that had 44 touchdowns last season at Washington State. The reason I put Jackson Arnold here is because I think Brent Venables too quickly pulled the plug on him last season. Oklahoma was playing its best football in November. And, had he not pulled the plug too early on Arnold in October, I thought Oklahoma maybe would have been a better team. But with the Hugh Freeze situation, I think the Tigers know offensively 2025 is it. Like if it's bad at the quarterback position again, Hugh Freeze is out. The Plains is going to open up, and maybe we see Deion Sanders come to Auburn or something. I would love Deion to be in the SEC, but I do think Hugh Freeze handpicked Jackson Arnold. He likes what he sees on film, and there's enough talent at wide receiver at Auburn around Jackson Arnold to be very good. Cam Coleman, 5-star. They paid $1.1 million for Eric Singleton from Georgia Tech, top receiver in the portal. So Auburn's a team that I would hit the over win total next season solely because Hugh Freeze's back is against the wall.
Circling back to LaNorris Sellers here, okay? We had a chance to have to speak with Coach last Monday here, and one of the things, Brad, that he brought up was the fact that not only was LaNorris Sellers a first-year starting quarterback at this point in time last year, he was kind of projecting to be the first-year starting quarterback. I think we all kind of knew that, but then he went through spring practice without 3 of his top wide receivers, and he had up front on the offensive line, you had a couple of new starters there. I mean, it just took some things a while. This go around, while they are changing leadership at the offensive coordinator position, it's not that much of a change. Mike Shula had more contact or as much contact with LaNorris Sellers as anybody this past season, and he called the bowl game. They do understand each other, and they seem to think this is a pretty good fit. But the thing that is in the right direction here, going back to what you mentioned a little bit a little bit ago about the wide receiver position, is those guys are here now. And I know that they've got a bunch of young dudes that have just gotten to campus. They're going to have to prove their worth, but their top guys are here. And one of them is Nick Harbor. And as we got to game 7, game 8, game 9, and so on, Nick Harbor looked more and more comfortable playing the wide receiver position. Now that he is foregoing this track season, what do you expect from him?
So right now, January 28th, I don't think Nick Harbor is a wide receiver 1 at South Carolina. Could he be 7 months from now when the season begins? Certainly. And I think this is a sign from Nick that he is football focused. Maybe he thinks his athletic career, professional career might be in football. And man, if he has a 900 to 1,000 yard season, it probably is given his specs. But I mean, to see his development rise, as you mentioned, just from last season to this 2024 campaign. I mean, that play that he made at Alabama in the corner of the end zone, that was like the 5-star play that we've been waiting to see out of Nick Harbor for 2.5 seasons. He's got to get more consistent as a route runner. There's been times where drops have been an issue. But as far as speed, athleticism, agility, I mean, he checks every box in that regard. I know him and LaNorris are really good friends, and LaNorris probably feels comfortable throwing in his direction. That's something that I saw last season too. The Gamecocks didn't have a ton of wide receiver talent that LaNorris looked all comfortable going with. I mean, on 3rd and 13, rather than look for a guy over the middle, the first read's not there, I'm tucking the ball and running, and I'm getting a first down. Now, that worked out for South Carolina's offense in 2024. I think in 2025, you're going to see a maybe more mature Sellers from the pocket, go through more of his progressions and that sort of thing, and kind of be that NFL-type quarterback. But I will say this, too, about the new offense under Mike Shula. You don't really want to make LaNorris Sellers play within the confines of the offense. If he sees a rushing lane, man, he's good enough to have a 1,000-yard season on the ground. So you gotta let him go. Not worry about injury. Not worry about taking too many hits, because now you got a quality backup behind him in Aaron Nolan as well. So I think Sellers, sky's the limit for him. But I still don't see a wide receiver 1 right now in this room. And I think during the spring portal cycle, the Gamecocks will continue to add to their group of pass catchers.
Yeah, if they find one they like, they're going to do that. There is no question about that. I look at this group because I do like them. It's not that. But I look at it actually kind of similarly to some of what Coach Spurrier had when he was here. Like, there were many years, Brad, where you'd look and go, well, these guys are okay. Demir Bird and Bruce Ellington and so on. Yeah, they're good. And then they just go out and just make a bunch of plays. Yeah. They just develop. And they had a quarterback who probably brought them along a little bit faster than somebody else would have at the time. They had 2 quarterbacks, Connor and Dylan. I feel like maybe they're in a situation like that. I do know this. Mike Furry is a hell of a football coach. I mean, the way that they look at this guy in the building, he is incredibly. He recruits and he develops. I don't know what more he asked for. So hopefully the next.
Yeah, the biggest improvement I saw from the wide receiver group this season was just how well they blocked and sealed edges. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was very impressive. Gamecocks having a lot of explosive runs via Sellers and Rocket Sanders this fall because Gamecocks wide receivers block so well. Nick Harbor, I mean, he's one of the SEC's best at engaging and holding on to his man. 2 years ago, that wasn't the case with Nick. He was not a physical player. Now he is much more imposing and strong from a football playing standpoint. But I like what the Gamecocks have coming back at the wide receiver spot. Like I said, though, I just don't think if I'm an opposing defensive coordinator in the SEC, that there's too many guys that I'm circling like, oh man, we got to bracket coverage him, or maybe he's a double over here. There's still guys that have to emerge within that room.
We got about 4 minutes left, Brad, and we'll get you out of here. I do want to go back to something since we haven't spoken to you. You wrote about this probably about a week ago is when it came out. And the headline was potential college football playoff changes to improve the postseason product. I don't know if you can remember the 5 things you listed in there, but if you can, give us a synopsis of those things. You got to experience the whole postseason virtually on the ground.
Yeah.
So give us your synopsis of what you wrote about.
So I was not a huge proponent a couple years ago of playoff expansion. I saw it as a complete money grab for college football, and I still think it was. However, being that now we're 2 weeks removed or so from the first expanded playoff, I mean, it was a raging success, man. More football is always welcome to me. We saw the number 7 and number 8 seed make the title game as basically two wild card teams that didn't win conference championships. Ohio State lost its rivalry game to Michigan, then ran the table, playing its best football of the year. That's what a tournament champion is supposed to look like. So I do appreciate that. I think one of the big changes in the future, JB, has to be how we seed playoff teams. I don't mind having, auto bids to conference champions. I don't mind the G5 highest ranked team being in, but don't necessarily put Boise State inside the top 4 if they're not one of the 4 best teams in the country. Let's just reseed completely. I think that, we need to change the whole Rose Bowl's a permanent semifinal site and that kind of thing. Let's split the New Year's Six bowls up. Maybe 2 semis and the title game are played at bowl sites and the rest are played on campuses. Now, based on everybody I spoke to in Atlanta, though, and the Rose Bowl, a lot of those programs told me that logistically it's just not going to work out to have multiple home games on your campus in December. It's too much staffing, and it's kind of a headache, to be honest. And then the last major change for me would be we cannot play the championship game at the end of January. That extends the season way too long.
Agreed.
Coaches haven't look. If Shane Beamer would have made the title game this year, he'd have had 3 total weeks off in the off season before he's back at spring practice. It's just crazy to me. But these coaches are handsomely paid. Shane's now at 8.1. So you get what you pay for, I guess.
Well, to your point, I think that was one of the big things for me. I didn't realize how impactful it would be in my thinking until we got to the date. Now, this year, unlike most years, you had a lot going on that day. You had Inauguration Day, you had MLK Day. I already think it's ridiculous that they play this thing on Monday night. And then every once in a while you hear people talk about ratings. I'm like, oh, that's a bunch of baloney. I don't want to hear about that. It's a national championship game.
Yeah.
You play it on a Monday night. You really think you won't get the ratings on a Saturday night? Of course you will. I think that the NFL and college football need to figure this out together. Like JC, I thought had an awesome point. Hey, I know that they start these games early now in the NFL, Saturdays and Sundays. Great. That's even better for college football. Play one at 1 and 1 at 4. Those divisional round games, or I guess they'd be wild card games. And then that night at 7:30 on ESPN, you could even do it at 8 if it's a Saturday. Play the national championship. I mean, they could. How great would they do this for the draft, Brad? You watch the draft in Detroit or wherever it is, and you got Herb Street sitting out there and all these guys talking about who these guys were in college. You could have some of those NFL guys sitting there talking about who they think they'll be in the pros. I mean, this would be a great blend of everything. I just think that with all the money and all the people and everything, all the interest, it almost felt like, oh yeah, there's a national championship game today. I forgot the season's still going. I think they need to fix that big time.
I think the best part about this expanded playoff television and viewer-wise is, we got the Rose Bowl on its one day. We got the Sugar Bowl. Unfortunately, because of the event in New Orleans, it got its own day. We got the Orange Bowl, Penn State, Notre Dame on its own day. When we don't have 3 or 4 playoff games on the same day, I think that benefits college football. Each of them kind of have their own, prime time setting. But I do like, the fact that December 31st and January 1st are still 2 huge days for college football. In the Rose Bowl, by the way, it's not going to be moved from January 1st, and it's just not going to happen. But I'm excited about the future of expansion, and I think we moved to at least 14 teams by 2026.
I agree with that. Brad, we look forward to getting you back here very soon. The good thing is, because of folks like you, we always have something to talk about.
There you go.
July used to be talking season. It's always talking season now.
Year-round sport, man.
Yeah, it doesn't go away. Well, you work really hard and you do a wonderful job. I know we tell you that every time, but we mean it. That's why we tell you that. Thanks for all of it. Thanks for your time. We can't wait to get you back soon.
Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Brad. There you go. Brad Crawford, 24/7 Sports. It's 11 o'clock. Brought to you by Tony Pope. Tony Pope State Farm, TonyPope.com. Insure whatever you've got here in South Carolina or the Peach State. TonyPope.com. Speaking of the Peach State, John Strickland hails from Bainbridge, Georgia, and he'll be here next on ITG.
There's nothing like Saturday in South Carolina. However you enjoy Gamecock football, Gamecock Traditions has a long-standing legacy of being a part of your game day. From tailgates to touchdowns, Gamecock Traditions has what you need and want with our beloved Block C logo. Get into Gamecock Traditions in Lexington or the Village at Sand Hill, or visit GamecockTraditions.com and have it shipped to your doorstep. We look forward to taking care of your family. Go Gamecocks.
When you bundle home and auto, good things can happen. You get a local agent who can help you choose the right coverage for you at a price that's right for you.
Call State Farm agent Tony Pope today.
Nana's Porch presents a Southern staple delivered right to your doorstep. Nana's Porch locally crafted pimento cheese has been a hit for years at weddings, tailgates, and other events. Now you can order online and have it sent to your home. Visit nanasporch.com. That's nanasporch.com and click the pimento cheese tab to choose between their original pimento cheese and their jalapeno smoked pimento cheese set. nanasporch.com, man, that's good.
When you bundle home and auto, good things can happen. You get a local agent who can help you choose the right coverage for you at a price that's right for you.
Call State Farm agent Tony Pope today.
Charleston Fitness Equipment is keeping South Carolina in shape. Clients have come from all over the Palmetto State to find that one piece of equipment that they enjoy that keeps them looking and feeling good. Whether it's a home rower, treadmill, elliptical, free weights, a home gym, or something else, Charleston Fitness Equipment keeps the mirror smiling back at you. Get in shape like the Gamecocks do. Visit charlestonfitnessequipment.com. Gamecock owned and operated and proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Nana's Porch presents a Southern staple delivered right to your doorstep. Nana's Porch locally crafted pimento cheese has been a hit for years at weddings, tailgates, and other events. Now you can order online and have it sent to your home. Visit nanasporch.com. That's nanasporch.com and click the pimento cheese tab to choose between their original pimento cheese and their jalapeno smoked pimento cheese set. nanasporch.com, man, that's good.
Fans, Club Chief has arrived. Become a Big Chief Club member or a Big Chief Club Golden Gear member for exclusive access to our Nana's Porch chat box on Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Plus, you'll get access to our VIP tailgates, prize drawings, merch, and much more. A portion of your monthly membership goes to the Garnet Trust, supporting NIL at the University of South Carolina. Pull up your Chief Sports app and join on the home page. Thank you so much for being a member of Club Chief, and we look forward to meeting many of you very soon. Gamecocks, the morning show, brought to you by Palm Casual, palmcasual.com. SportsNetwork.com. Shout out to the great Weasel, right, John Strickland? Shout out to the great Wease. He's God only knows where he is today, roaming around doing something. Aaron Beasley, the owner of Palm Casual, is one of the biggest Gamecocks you will ever meet. He might be the biggest Gamecock you'll ever meet. It's you gotta calm him down sometimes, but that's what makes him a great businessman. And now that all of our furniture's thawed out from the ice and snow of the past week, you're probably looking at yours now that it's fallen apart and crusty and broken. You need new stuff, right? PalmCasual.com. PalmCasual.com. 4 locations here in South Carolina. What's up, John?
What's going on?
Just solving the world's problems one show at a time, man.
Heard that.
you know what I'm saying. All right. We'll get to some baseball in a little bit, and in hoops. Carolina plays tonight. The women win last night, like the women do. But I'm gonna throw a breaking ball at you to see if you can hit it here. The pride of Bainbridge, Georgia. Did you see the comments from the ACC commissioner last week about the potential future of the ACC championship game?
I missed it. I don't keep up with them.
Good, good thing. So he threw around the idea. This idea is being discussed. It doesn't seem likely, but it's the ACC, and they're pretty desperate. So who knows? But he threw around the idea that, you know what? Here's the thing. Here's what we'll do. We'll take the number 1 seed, the number 1 team at the end of the year, undefeated Wake Forest, because we're surely not going to say that team in the upstate. Yeah, they don't need to play in the title game. Well, we're going to let 2 and 3 play in the title game. Or, well, here's what we'll do. Let them play this weekend, and then whoever wins that game gets to play number 1. I don't really know, like, what their focus is. They've thrown around maybe taking 1 and 4 and 2 and 3 and playing them, and then those 2 winners play in an ACC title game, which I think this is just, quite frankly, I think it's pretty stupid if you ask me. But if that were the case, it would alter the ACC football schedule, meaning that final weekend, teams like Clemson and Carolina would not be able to play. So let's say that they come up with some garbage idea because they're trying to squeeze as many teams into the playoff as they can, because it's not a good league, so they're just trying to rig the system, right? So let's say any of this comes to fruition, and that game has to be moved. Where does it go?
Well, first of all, I think that idea is absolutely dumb and ridiculous. I don't think that's going to help you get more teams in the playoffs regardless. Just honestly does not make sense at all. Whoever came up with it should be fired. But yeah, it just doesn't make no sense. And there may be talks about it, but I don't ever see that happening. Just makes 0 sense because for one, all these teams you're talking about, it's another loss on the schedule for 2 of them, right? And secondly, they got 2 in this past year, and then at the end of the day, probably you'll only get 2 in again. So it just doesn't hold water in my book.
No, it didn't hold any water in mine. I have heard, just for the sake of argument or conversation or whatever you want to call it, but in the past, when people have talked about this Clemson Carolina game, it's been thrown around before. Hey, why don't we would be the talk of the sport. Why don't we play it week 1? I think that's a horrible idea.
I agree. I think Thanksgiving week is always the perfect time for this game. You got people that are back home in the Carolinas that may live in other states. It allows them to, easily attend the game. And anything other than that just doesn't make sense. I don't know why you want to play it week 1. I think the game being Thanksgiving is the best time of the year to have rivalry games, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you have too much to lose. Both teams do. Like you think about that. Like if you open up the season and you lose to Clemson or Clemson loses to South Carolina, how many people just jump off the wagon for a little while? You know what I mean?
They probably do. It's not so much that I think it would be bad for either team. I think it's bad just for the rivalry and the fan base. Because honestly, typically if you lose early, but then you keep on winning throughout the season, that early loss usually doesn't really hurt you. I mean, just look at Notre Dame, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think in that perspective of losing the game would hurt either team that early in the season. But I think it hurts the rivalry and the fan base, in my opinion.
What about, okay, regardless of that nonsense from the ACC, last year, remember, the Clemson was approached about moving it to Friday, and Coach Sweeney said no, which I'm glad he did. I'll be honest with you. I like the game on Saturday, and I disagree with Coach Beamer here. Like, I think that they are open to it maybe being on a Friday night, and Shane had pointed out, you remember this, he said, hey, look, the whole country's watching Florida State. That could be us. What about Friday? What about playing it on Thursday like they used to do decades ago?
Honestly, to me, it really doesn't matter.
As long as it's that week.
Yeah. I mean, Thanksgiving Day sounds fun, but kind of screws up my day that I enjoy so much.
I know, dude. I love Thanksgiving. It's the calmest day of the year in my house.
Oh, 100%. And then I like to smoke a turkey every year, and I like to watch NFL football games that day. So I think that would be a bad day to do it. But, I'm all about the Saturdays. I mean, Friday, I would be fine with it because most people just aren't working. But I think Saturday is the day to go with, honestly.
Yeah, I really don't want to see it come off of Saturday at all. I enjoy being a part of that mix on Saturday. I just think it's great. Of course, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Maybe let me think more about it. Maybe Shane is right. If you played it on Friday nights, and then Saturday you just get to watch football all day. You don't have to worry about.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's a good thing. That's why I said I wouldn't be mad if it was on Friday. I just like the Saturday more. But no, would I be upset that it's on Friday nights? Not at all.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what comes of it. The ACC is trying to come up with ways to scam their way in. I think like what they're trying to do. I might have even misspoke on that. It might be 2 through 5. We're like 2 and 5 play, or I don't know. 2 and 3 play. Well, you have a regular season champion, and then you have a championship game champion. I don't know. Whatever. My point is, they're trying to figure out how to get 2 champions. So, like,
well, here's the thing: you already played the schedule during the season, do you not? Yeah. You already play each other during the season. It just doesn't make any sense. Anyways, I don't know.
Dude, did you see Clemson's schedule last night? They had their release.
I heard it was pretty soft, but I didn't look at it.
Yeah, they got LSU.
Yeah, I knew that first game. Yeah.
Yep. LSU, Troy, at Georgia Tech, Syracuse, off. Then they go to Bill Belichick's Chapel Hill, and then at Boston College, and then they host SMU, and then they're off, and then they host Duke, and then they host Florida State. Then they go to Louisville, Furman, and then Columbia.
So it's a little. All right, that schedule's a little tougher than last year.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, well, I guess. I mean, based on last season's results, it is. But who are these teams? I mean, I still look at the schedule and say their most difficult game that they play is the last one.
Yep, I agree.
If I had to rank them, I mean, that's
because they get LSU at home, right? So that becomes a little easier. You have to come to Columbia and play.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would say that's probably their toughest game on the schedule.
Yeah, I don't know how good SMU is going to be. Who knows?
I mean, I think Georgia Tech is going to be pretty good, and I think Syracuse will be pretty good. Louisville is always a good team every year. They're usually solid every year. So I think that's kind of your other three. We'll see what Florida State, what becomes of them after the disaster this past year. They've made some good portal pickups, so we'll see how the season fares for them. But that's kind of how I see their schedule.
All right, John, you got senior games this week. Carolina's got 9 players playing in senior games, which is awesome. Thursday night in Arlington, 6 now former Gamecocks, OD, Tonka, Kai Kroger, Rocket Sanders, Josh Simon. They're on the East team in the East-West Shrine Bowl at Jerry World. And now that Bam Martin Scott's moving on, he's going to play on the West team. I was talking to Alex Jones about this earlier. Of that group right there specifically, of that group, and keep in mind they still have combine invites, still have to go out, and you still have pro day at Williams-Brice Stadium down the road. But of that group there, who do you think has the most to gain as far as their draft status goes?
Most to gain. All right, I'm shocked Tonka Hemingway didn't get a Senior Bowl invite. So I think he's got the most to gain. I think you're going to see him if he goes out there and does what we know he can do. I think he has the most to gain because, I mean, if you just look at his potential, he's such a flex guy. He can play inside and outside, D end and D tackle. So he's just such an athletic player. I think he's going to turn some heads this week down there. So I think him. I think you could see. I don't know where he was projected at the end of the year here to go in the draft, but I think he's one you could see shoot up the draft boards. I mean, I really do. I think he's got a ton to gain off of this. And then after that, I'd say OD and Josh Simon would be the other two I would put in that mix. So that's but I mean, let's be real. I played in the Senior Bowl. So everybody's got something to gain. And the Senior Bowl, it can help you or hurt you. I mean, there's two ways about it.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you about that because Kennard, TJ, and Demetrius Knight are in the Senior Bowl next weekend. One of the things I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about, like the interview process, because you now it's not just like what we're seeing on the field, right? Like, so off the field, they're talking to folks. They're going to do the same thing, of course, at the combine. Those that get the invite, and then when the scouts come to Columbia, and there will be a lot of scouts in Columbia this year for this group. You get to speak to them again. What are some of the things that they talk to you about? Because like the group that's going to be in the Senior Bowl, first of all of them are just tremendous kids, like tremendous kids. I mean, they're going to represent Gamecock football as well as you could possibly ask any of your players to do it. But I think the one who's going to really stand out is going to be Demetrius Knight, just because he's already an adult. Like he gets it all. He understands all this stuff, I think, as much as any of them. But so what are those conversations like? How much can you gain in those things?
I mean, you can gain a lot. And I mean, I've been through it. I can tell you kind of how it works. But, I got there, checked in to the hotel, and then literally there was a players meeting. And then you took the Wonderlic test. You took that while you were there. You met with NFL teams. Then the next morning before practice, you were paraded into a room in front of scouts in your underwear, weighed, height, wingspan, hands, all those measurements. Those were done in front of a room full of scouts. And then you just practice all week. Against each other, against some of the best college football players from around the country. So that's kind of how the week goes. You knock all the NFL team meeting, the Wonderlic test, the measurements, which I think they did the measurements yesterday at the Senior Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. I think I saw all those numbers start coming out. But, you're paraded around kind of like a prodded cattle, You're getting shown off in front of a room full of scouts in your underwear. So, yeah, that's kind of how that goes there.
This here is John. He weighs 320 pounds.
Yeah, and the Senior Bowl I played in is kind of like the one that's like the East-West Shrine. So I think there were 3 Senior Bowls when I came out. Obviously, you had the big Senior Bowl, and mostly the invites of that are like guys who are probably going to be drafted in the first 3 rounds. Is typically what goes now. Some guys are going to fall from that Senior Bowl because, like I said, it can help or hurt you. And then you have the other 2. I played in the Gridiron Classic, which used to be called someone else before I played in it. And that was down in Orlando. And we played at the Villages. But we practiced inside the Citrus Bowl. That's where practice was every day. It was inside the Citrus Bowl. You were coached by NFL assistant coaches. And at the time, this was back when NFL Europe was a big thing. You had some of those coaches, like the head coach and offensive coordinators and stuff from some of the NFL Europe teams that were NFL coaches at one point, but they were just coaching over in Europe or whatever. And then actually Frank Beamer was our honorary head coach on my team, on the South team or East team. I don't remember what it was called. It was a long time ago. Yeah. So Frank was actually our honorary head coach, but he wasn't out there until the day before the game. It was all NFL coaches out there running the practices and plays and all that.
So when you let me go back real quick. The Wonderlic test, like what is? Give us an example of something that's on it.
Oh Lord. I mean, listen, if you've taken kind of an IQ test, it's very similar to that, okay? So, like, Johnny has 50 apples, and he gives something to this, and then he takes – it's just all these, like, you know what kind of questions I'm talking about, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually just pulled up a practice test.
Yeah, so just read one, and that'll tell you right there.
Well, did they give you a calculator?
No. You have to do everything in your head.
The cost of 150 feet of wire is $19.20. How much would 45 feet cost?
Yeah, I mean, you can. It's just like if you were taking a standard test where there's no calculators allowed, but you have a scrap worksheet where you can work out problems. I mean, that's basically how it goes.
I'm going to guess $7.24. Which in the following group of numbers is smallest? Oh, well, that's easy. Okay, so some of them are like...
Some of them are basic, easy questions, and some of them are brain teasers to see how well you think on your feet.
Blank is to purchase as hunger is to eat. Salary, money, buy, store, need. I guess money would be to purchase, right? Money is to purchase as hunger is to eat. I'm hungry, so I eat. I have money, so I purchase. Yeah. And you only have 12 minutes to do it. I think I might fail this thing. Anyways.
Yeah, pretty quick.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, it's 11:24. We do need to slide to a timeout. We got basketball coming up, and I've got some baseball stuff as well. We're powered by our friends at Electric Bikes of Charleston, Electric Bikes, Charleston.com. Oh my gosh, there's sun outside and warmer weather. Incredible. ElectricBikesCharleston.com if you'd like to cruise around in the upstate or in the Midlands or down here along the coastline in the low country. That's where you want to go. And it is a new year. And remember that they are also part of Charleston Fitness Equipment. It's let's see here, John, it's 1/28, January the 28th. How many of you started working out the first week of January and you haven't been back in about 10 days? It happens to people every year. They say they're going to do it. They go for 2 weeks. And then it's just too much. I don't have enough time or whatever the case is. Well, bring that to your home. You can do that by going and seeing our friends at Electric Bikes of Charleston and Charleston Fitness Equipment. The Wilkins family is second to none, much like the Strickland family. Hang tight. ITG The Morning Show will be right back.
I said, oh, Lord Jesus, it's a fire. And
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Disaster comes uninformed. During and after natural disasters or accidents, there can be a heavy loss to property. It can become extremely difficult to bounce back to what you knew before. Having your home or office destroyed or damaged by water, fire, smoke, or mold affects your personal and business lifestyle. Resto Pros of the Midlands is here to help. Open 24/7. Call them when you need them. 803-493-0170.
Set up a screen, and it goes to Brewer. 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Brewer, his second of the day. Pitches it to Brewer, turns the corner. Touchdown, number 3 of the afternoon.
Hey folks, it's Mike Morgan for Ryan Brewer Fence. That's right, you know the former Gamecock legend as a terrific college football player. Well, I know him as that too. I also know him as the guy that runs a great business, one of the best businesses in South Carolina. How do I know that? Well, for one, I'm actually a client of Ryan's. I had my home in Columbia done years ago, and his crew did an outstanding job, just as he does for everybody else. Whether you're in the market for a fence, railings, columns, or anything in between, their craftsmanship, their experience, and service, second to none. Ryan Brewer Fence has over 15 years of experience with consultation and installation of residential and commercial fencing and railings. Rest assured your job will be done with an unparalleled level of expertise, and it's done on time, and they do it right the first time. Again, you're not going to do any better than Ryan Brewer. Ryan Brewer Fence. The website is ryanbrewer.net. Set up an appointment today. Tell them Mike sent you.
You're tuned into Inside the Gamecocks, the morning show. Part of the Chief Sports Network and presented by Gamecock Traditions.
It's 11:28, built by the Barn Co. and presented by Resto Pros. John, did you happen to read the VIP room from last night on the Big Spur, the recruiting updates?
I did not.
Yeah, man. JC will be here tomorrow, and he'll address a lot of this today on the show. But winning helps. Winning helps.
It always helps.
Yeah. There's a lot going on right now with a lot of big time players, including that 4, maybe end up being 5-star defensive end, the Dunham kid from North Carolina. Matter of fact, Hale put a crystal ball in for the Gamecocks on that last night.
Yeah, I mean, I saw some of it. I saw some of the visitors we had over the weekend, so it all sounded like it went pretty good.
Yeah, they're recruiting at a high level right now, and they've got the money to do it too, so that's good. Not all the money in the world, but they've got the money to do it, which is a good sign. And apparently I just haven't had much of a chance to really get as involved in the recruiting conversations lately, but from a quarterback perspective, things are looking good. We'll just put it that way.
Couple of guys.
They look good. JC will fill you in more. And we'll have a deeper conversation on that tomorrow. Carolina baseball is set to go on Valentine's Day. We hope all of you we hope all of your wives are nice enough to let you spend Valentine's Day at the ballpark for opening day. Mine is. She actually wants me to go do that. She doesn't like Valentine's Day, which is great. John, I know you are a big Carolina baseball guy, and rightfully so, because these guys, this is this is the richest tradition at South Carolina is South Carolina baseball. One of the things we do have Monty Lee coming up soon. We got Paul Maneri coming up soon. We'll get their words on all of this, but they're going to have to pitch early in the season. I did speak with a couple of sources this morning. Lively arms on this team. It's crazy though. Like, this is all across the country, certainly in the SEC. There's no doubt about it, but baseball is a little bit different. I mean, you can go into the CAA, like where Coach Holbrook plays, and you'll find the teams that are at the top have a dude who hums at 95 to 97. You'll see that in the SoCon. You'll see it in the ACC. You'll see it in the Big 10. You'll see it in the Big 12. I mean, 94, 95, that is very normal now. And South Carolina certainly has their guys, but they are going to have to pitch, and they're going to have to pitch well to start to get some. I mean, they'll win plenty in the non-conference, and they've got Clemson coming into I guess week 3 or whatever, weekend 3. But then when you get in ACC or SEC play, they're going to have to pitch to probably win some early games and continue to build some momentum offensively here. But overall, with Paul Maneri taking over, everything feels drastically different. Just drastically different, John. You played for a guy in Coach Holtz who was every second was accounted for, right? Everything you did, everything you didn't do. There was a penalty for the things that you didn't do or didn't do well. There was a reward for the things that you did do well, and usually that was called playing time. But anytime you were on the practice field, there was an accountability aspect. That is what Paul Maneri has reintroduced to South Carolina, much like Coach Tanner and a lot of what Coach Holbrook brought as well. And they desperately needed it. That can change things in a hurry when you've got the talent to do it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I got you. I mean, listen, competition brings out the best in you, right? And, you hear all these – it's so funny. I always go back to this. You hear people outside the building saying, well, why isn't such and such playing? Or why isn't this person playing? Man, I can't believe the coach is playing this guy or this guy. Listen, there's no politics on a sports team. Whoever performs best at practice is going to play because the coach's job's on the line. He's not going to put somebody in there because he likes him more than the other guy. It's just not how it works in sports. So and that's what makes sports great. I mean, competition brings out the best in everybody, and the best guys are going to play. And that's what it's been. That's what it's about, and that's what it's always been about.
Yeah, and this staff here, like one of the things I'm really interested in seeing. We mentioned a couple of weeks ago who we thought those starters would be. I still am going to stay right in that lane with the 3 guys that I thought it would be. Maybe Becker. Becker's going to pitch. I just don't know where exactly he's going to be most valuable for this team.
Yeah, I mean, you lose Veach, lose Gainey, right?
Yeah,
so you got to find a closer. So is Becker that closer? I mean,
I don't know.
I don't.
That's not questioning him.
Yeah, I know. I know that they're still looking at it, right? I mean, you still got a few weeks, couple weeks, But yeah, we got to find a closer because we had some good ones last year.
I mean, they did. The only thing that I disagreed with all of that with, and those are 2 different guys. Those are two different guys. Okay. Obviously, Veach had some Matt Price in him at times where he could go in and dominate, but then he also had a pitch that could just dominate you. I mean, that changeup when it was it was
yes.
Wow, like unhittable. Gainey, who was all over the place from a mental standpoint, which that's not like the worst thing in the world, but you've got to be able to control it on the bump.
Yeah.
And then he would come in and it was like, man, love what you got and what you're all about in your makeup. And you don't want, one of the things that King, which again, I personally, I agreed and disagreed a little bit with how he handled some of this. Like you don't want to stop kids from being who they are. Like, don't change who they are.
Yeah.
But
Because he was an emotional guy. And
very emotional.
He threw hard as hell. So you knew you weren't going to get a whole lot out of him as far as like pitches because he threw so dang hard, right?
Max effort every time.
Yeah.
And John, like he like the baseball gods, like they are real. I'm telling people, like they really exist. Like I don't know how else to explain this, but if you show your ass on the mound, they are going to exist. And like he ended up kind of coming back and chipping back last year. But you remember the Clemson game?
Oh yeah,
he was showing his rear end, and the ball gets hit out of the yard, and it was like I knew that was coming, But I didn't like how the whole thing was handled at times. Like, just make one of them the closer. Like, it's okay. And then Gainey ended up needing to start. You want to stay out of that carousel.
Injuries, man. Injuries will kill you just like in any sport. But yeah.
Yeah. You want to stay out of that carousel. And I do think that Becker is the wild card in this whole thing here because he can start. I personally believe I don't know Matthew Becker really. I obviously I've met him, I think briefly. I know he's an amazing kid. He's got great stuff, but I do think he's got it in him to close. At the end of the day, really, like, what is he more comfortable doing, and then run with that. I think Coach Maneri will probably do that. But like, if this team has a rotation that they're good with, and they have two guys on the back end who understand what their roles are, they're going to win a bunch of games. They're going to go to the postseason. They're going to have a chance to do damage. If they don't, and it's another carousel, they're going to go to the postseason, but it's going to be a lot of what we've seen in the past, trying to figure it out. Like, let's figure it out. And we're in May, and you feel like that should have been figured out in March or April. That's the whole key to me, like early in the year, is who are those five guys? And then everybody else, John, you can fit them where you need to fit them. But who are those five guys? That's who I want to know.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm looking forward to see what Jerzenbeck can do coming off injury. Obviously,
Dylan Eskew.
Him and Eskew. I'm really excited for both of them. Eskew's got a year under his belt and coming back ready to rock. But we all know what we saw from Jerzenbeck the previous year. The guy can be electric. So I don't know. We'll kind of see how it goes here.
Yeah, they've got that's the interesting thing with this team. Like, when you look at what do they return on the mound, not what have they added, but what do they return? Okay, so you just a couple of years ago, I don't know if anyone remembers this, they didn't have any left-handed pitchers. They had one, which is crazy. So you got Becker and you got McCoy, and those going into the season are your two most reliable arms. You've got other guys there. Wyatt Evans came in from Tennessee. He's originally from the upstate. Jarvis Evans, the lefty that came in from Georgia, who transferred in. Probably a name to keep an eye on is Aiden Palmer, the young man from South Florence who was at Florence Darlington Tech, lefty, kind of a tall kid, lanky kid. And then you got all these righties who's thrown a ton. You mentioned Jerzenbeck, who does his stuff is electric. There's a reason why the big leaguers were willing to take a chance on him last year, Strick, and he was hurt. And Dylan Eskew, Kimball is a guy who's got great stuff, and I know Roman personally, but that doesn't stop me from saying that, like, Roman needs to figure out Roman up here. Once he gets where he needs, and he knows that, like, once he gets where he needs to be, he can really, really, really help South Carolina baseball. Tyler Pitzer, remember the game that he threw up at Vanderbilt last year? Starting experience. Parker Marlott is back. Eddie Copper is back. Like, they've got a bunch of guys who have logged a ton of innings.
Yep.
That is never a bad thing at all. And that's why I'm saying, like, who are those three? And then who are the back two? the rest of those dudes can fill it all in. If they can do that, I'm telling you, they will win a ton of baseball games. But if that is a question mark 8 weeks, 9, 10 weeks into the season, in this league, in
this league, man, pitching is everything. Obviously hitting the ball too, but pitching, man, games are won on the mound. And I don't know. It's going to be an interesting year. I mean, you got a lot of guys with experience that have pitched a lot, but you lost some guys that you relied on last year. So we'll just kind of see how this thing shakes out.
Well, look, you lose. Who would have been your Cole Messina at South Carolina? I don't know. Petty, Brewer probably. That'd probably be a better fit, right? When Brewer graduated, you lose not just the production, but you lose that guy.
Oh, you lose a punt returner who was just reliable as can be. Somebody like Brewer. So, it's more than just one piece of him, slot and running back. I mean, it was, you lose more than just that.
Yeah. And you lost leadership. I mean, when Ryan spoke, people listened, right?
Yep.
That's kind of the thing here with Cole Messina. I mean, you lose he was the best catcher in the SEC. One of the best offensive catchers in the country. He could play first if you needed it. Hell, he could play third if you needed him to.
Yeah.
And
so to go, it's going to be a tricky replacement. I know Lee Croy and Bates have been kind of – I know Bates is coming off of like a hand surgery or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's kind of the two guys they're kind of seeing, who can win the job. And then I heard Lee Croy at scrimmage last week played first base on. Did I see that?
Yeah, he did. I don't think he'll play there in the
I think they're probably trying some people, moving some people around. And obviously, you know how it goes.
Well, the injuries and stuff. I mean, your first basemen are going to be some combination of in depending on what the lineup is. Will Tippett, Bo Hollins, and Ethan Petrie. I know that the left side of the infield is probably where Coach Maneri, if I had to guess right now, okay, give me your lineup. Henry Kazmar is going to be in there at shortstop. And from what I'm told, and I'll talk to those guys a little bit more about this here soon, they're going to start the freshman KJ Scobie over at third base. They're going to have a true freshman at third base this season. Now, does he last there all year long? I'm not sure. Third base has been a debacle for the last couple of years, to put it politely.
I'm not going to call any names, but there were some games won and lost because of the third base position last year.
Yeah. Those guys know that. That's nothing personal. Like, I don't mean it like that. I mean, Tal LeCroy was mainly the guy over there. I like Tal LeCroy. I didn't like a lot of the flamboyant stuff, and I know that that's been calmed down for him because he's better than that. Like, he's a baseball player. He's a dirt bag. Dirt bag baseball players are the best ones on the planet.
Yep.
I don't know. Put me in there. Just put me in the lineup. All I want to do is play. And so Lee Croy would play short. Lee Croy would catch. Lee Croy would play third. Now he's played first. Like, those guys, you have to have those guys. And he needs to hit the way he's capable of hitting. I think he will, or at least close to it. But third it didn't matter. I mean, it was still a train wreck. So for call,
well, you had injuries last year, right? So you had to move guys around. Different guys were playing third base, and then you move Thomas back to third. I mean, it was just
Petrie at third.
Yep.
It just didn't work.
No.
So with Maneri committing to Scobie this early as a true freshman, one of two things: either A, he's really, really good, or like good enough, and the more he plays, he'll get more and more comfortable and be really, really good, or B, it's just the best we've got. I don't think it's that at all. I do think that he really likes this kid and he wants him over there and wants him in the lineup. And then after that, I mean, I know who's going to play. I just don't know where they're going to play,
right.
which is crazy. But it all starts on the mound. So my early projection: Jersenbeck, McCoy, SQ, righty, lefty, righty. That's my early projection, and Becker in the back. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's coming up soon. Bonnie Lee and Paul Maneri will both join us in the coming weeks here on this show, and they'll tell you. I don't have to do that. All right, John. It's 11:45. What's worse, turnovers or errors?
God, I mean, it's basically the same thing.
Or fumbles.
They're all the same thing. I mean, it's all the same thing. You just can't do it, and if you do it a lot, guess what? You're gonna lose.
Mm-hmm.
It's just all those translate into the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Turnovers in basketball, turnovers in football, errors in baseball, which is pretty much like a turnover. So all those translate into putting yourself in bad positions and giving up points or runs. And basketball team's been on a crazy run of turnovers in all these games they've lost, especially, I've already said it, and if they continue to turn the ball over like this, they're not going to win. They can take care of the ball, they're going to win. But, it's kind of been the story so far this season in SEC play.
I hate to say it, but it really actually kind of is that simple. We will talk much more about that game as we wind things down here on the morning show when we return.
Charleston Fitness Equipment is keeping South Carolina in shape. Clients have come from all over the Palmetto State to find that one piece of equipment that they enjoy that keeps them looking and feeling good. Whether it's a home rower, treadmill, elliptical, free weights, a home gym, or something else, Charleston Fitness Equipment keeps the mirror smiling back at you. Get in shape like the Gamecocks do. Visit charlestonfitnessequipment.com. Gamecock owned and operated and proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Nana's Porch presents a Southern staple delivered right to your doorstep. Nana's Porch locally crafted pimento cheese has been a hit for years at weddings, tailgates, and other events. Now you can order online and have it sent to your home. Visit nanasporch.com. That's nanasporch.com and click the pimento cheese tab to choose between their original pimento cheese and their jalapeno smoked pimento cheese set. nanasporch.com, man, that's good.
Fans, Club Chief has arrived. Become a Big Chief Club member or a Big Chief Club Golden Gear member for exclusive access to our Nana's Porch chat box on Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Plus, you'll get access to our VIP tailgates, prize drawings, merch, and much more. A portion of your monthly membership goes to the Garnet Trust, supporting NIL at the University of South Carolina. Pull up your Chief Sports app and join on the home page. Thank you so much for being a member of Club Chief, and we look forward to meeting many of you very soon.
There's a high drive. That ball is tagged. That ball is way, way, way out of here. You look good and you know it, babe. Look good and you know it.
Sure look good.
Look good and you know it.
But you know it.
Look good and you know it. Yeah. Look good and you know it. You know it, babe. Look good, 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 you know it,
babe. It's 11:50. It's the final few minutes of ITG The Morning Show. The show is coming up here in just a little bit with Schubert and Mad Dog. John, you got a question. When do you think basketball gets their first win? Does it happen tonight? They've won 14 of 16 against Georgia.
Yeah, going on the road's tough. Georgia's a good team, even though they look terrible against Florida Saturday. I watched that game. Mike was on the call on that game, actually. I don't know, man. We got a turnover problem. Obviously, you can tell coach is just frustrated as hell.
Oh.
I mean, you can just see it on his face when these turnovers continue to happen. I mean, you coach these guys, put them in places to be able to make plays, and then they just make bad decisions. And that is the most frustrating thing for a coach, is to feel like you've had good practices, you went out, you've given the players a game plan, they go out and execute, but then just turnovers are just bad mistakes, man. Trying to do too much, not doing what you need to do, trying to make just bad passes. I mean, it's been frustrating to watch this team, because I actually think we have a really good basketball team. I think we're probably just all these close losses. I mean, if it wasn't for, you just cut the turnovers down 20, 30% in all these close losses, you probably win the game. You probably win the game. I mean, it's been 15-plus turnovers in every game, 25 turnovers in the Vandy game. I think it was 19 turnovers in the Mississippi State game. I mean, just cut that down a little bit, and it changes everything in the game. And I don't know. They got to get it cleaned up. I'm hoping they get the win tonight, but if they continue on this pattern of turning the ball over, it's going to be tough sledding.
Dude, you mentioned the Vandy game. So that was 4 games ago. Vandy, Oklahoma on the road, Florida, Mississippi State at home. In those 4 games alone, 76 combined turnovers. I've never seen anything like that. That's a stat Mike gave yesterday, and then I went and checked it to make sure that his math was correct, and it was. 76.
I mean, basically, you're almost average. You're basically averaging 19 turnovers a game. That is insane. Insane. That is a crazy. You will not win basketball games doing that, and clearly, we're not winning them.
Right.
We have a good enough front court to play with anybody. Okay, anybody in this league, our front court, you got good enough. Just the other guys got to be role players with that front court, hit their shots, and not turn the ball over. Not turn the ball over. Davis has got to cut down on the turnovers. He's probably averaging 5 or 6 a game just by himself, and he's been playing good offensively. Been playing really good, except for the turnovers. He's been playing well defensively, but the turnovers, man, it's killing this team. I think we have a really good basketball team. I think, if you just look at how they play defense and offense, and you take the turnovers out, I think we're a top 10, top 9 or 8 teams in the league right now. And but unfortunately, when you turn the ball over like you do, it sends you straight to the bottom. And
yeah. Well, to back up what you're saying, okay, Mississippi State, Auburn, Florida, Vanderbilt. All right, if you did what you should do in those games, and not only just the turnovers, but the crazy spurts, 40, 50 seconds of game time where you dump the ball into the other team's lap 3 or 4 times. If that stuff doesn't exist, this team is 14-6, 4-3 in league play,
and you're probably a projected 7 seed in the tournament,
easily in the tournament. I mean, with plenty of room to spare because of 100%. Who you would have beat.
Yep.
And that's just been, and again, like, look, there's some things that they can't change right now. Like they can't go get new players. They do need help at the guard position. I think that's pretty clear. But that's not going to change.
Point guard looked a lot better Saturday than it has, obviously,
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with that. The only thing I would say with Jamari Thomas, I'm not a basketball coach. Lamont never called me and asked me for advice, so what the hell do I know? But he gets so deep. He gets in the paint a lot and then kind of gets lost with the ball. Doesn't really know what to do with it.
He did make some good plays, though. He made some good plays on Saturday. You could tell it was an upgrade from when him being out. That's a fact.
No question, John. He is their best answer there. There's no question about that. If he could just slow, you know what I mean? Like, this guy's the good guy on your shoulder and this guy's the bad guy. He do it. Go on, get in there. They're only 7 feet tall. You'll be fine. And this guy's like, nah, man, move the basketball. Let's find an open shot. Listen to the guy on the right side in some of those moments, because Jacoby does it all the time too. A lot of these guys, they just get lost in the lane and they don't know, and none of them are strong with the basketball when they get in there. The ball just gets stripped away or they dribble it out of bounds. It's just the strangest stuff. And that's the issue, as you pointed out. It starts with a T. It's turnovers. They're good in the front court. Those guys are good up front.
Yeah. I mean, listen, everybody can say, well, we missed some free throws at the end of the games. But, yeah, guess what? You wouldn't even be in that position if you didn't have 40 million turnovers.
Yeah.
The turnovers are the problem with this team. And until that's fixed, they're going to continue to lose. If they clean that up, they're going to win some games. And who knows how many. I mean, if you clean up those turnovers, you can just cut it in half. You're averaging almost 20 turnovers a game. If you can cut it down to like a 10 average, you're going to win some basketball games.
You're going to win a ton of games.
Yeah. Then it's just something that's got to be cleaned up. It's got to be cleaned up. And trust me, Lamont, I'm sure he's been going crazy. I know he's been going crazy over it. You can just see it in his face.
Yeah.
Turnovers are directly on the player making bad decisions.
Yeah.
And that's all turnovers come down to. I mean, you're going to have some every now and then. Nobody's going to be perfect. I mean, look at the women last night. I mean, they had a bunch of turnovers in the first quarter. Well, that's why they were down one. They had a bunch of turnovers and bad decisions in the fourth quarter, and that's why Tennessee pulled within 7 points. So turnovers are a big thing, and you got to make smart decisions. And when you don't, it's going to cost you.
Well, it has certainly done that thus far. They have. This has been very, very frustrating to watch. But more importantly, we know how frustrating it's been for the guys in the locker room. It's not like they're trying to lose. They're certainly not doing that. I have been. I'll add this too. I know we're running out of time here. I have continuously been impressed, much like last year and the year before. Even on some bad nights, you get the basketball shoved down your throat. It's just kind of an embarrassing performance. You get your heart broken. His teams never flinch. They show up and play the next ball game. There's so much credit to be given there. I know the record doesn't reflect like a bunch of bounce back wins or anything this year, but they to this point have just not tossed the towel in. They're playing as hard as they can.
Yeah, 100%. They're giving max effort. But sometimes I think they're trying too hard, and that's another thing that leads to turnovers.
Do they win tonight?
Same thing in baseball and football. If you're trying overly too hard to try and just make something happen, 50% of the time it's going to turn out bad. Do they win tonight? I don't know. I really don't know. If they limit turnovers, yeah, they win. If they continue to play like they play, no, they won't win. I don't even want to give you a prediction because this team is right now, the trend they're on with the turnovers, it's just hard to say, yes, they're going to win the game until they change it.
They've won 14 of 16 against the Dogs. They're 7.5-point underdogs. Oklahoma and A&M tip at 9 tonight on the SEC Network. And the big one in the league is on ESPN at 7 from Food City Center in Knoxville, Tennessee, and Kentucky in an 8-12 matchup there. All right, I'm picking them. They beat Georgia by 35 points.
I hope you're right.
Any parting shots, John?
No, man. Obviously, I'll be watching the game tonight. We'll see what happens. I love basketball, man, and I want to see these guys do good. But hopefully they get these turnovers cleaned up, and we'll see what happens.
I have faith. I have lots and lots of faith. John, it's always a pleasure to have you, man. We can run the gamut. Football, baseball, basketball. We'll even get your thoughts on the rise ball and softball here soon. How about that?
All right.
That sounds good.
Listen, I have time for a lot of stuff, but I can only follow so much. You know, kids, work.
The horses in the equestrian ring. We'll talk about that before long here too. Oh man, have a great week, brother. Good to have you as always.
All right, man.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Thanks to John Strickland, Brad Crawford, and Alex Jones, and all of you. Back tomorrow at 10. The show is now, and we'll see you on Wednesday here on The Morning Show.